When you're building a new rig, the temptation to grab the cheapest RTX 5000 series card you can find is strong. I've seen too many friends splurge on a bargain GPU, only to discover a noisy fan curve, thermal throttling after a short session, or a board that just refuses to sit snugly in a mid-tower. The regret that follows having to pause your game for a crash, or worse, replace the card altogether is exactly why I wanted to see if the ASUS TUF Gaming RTX 5070 Ti actually feels like a smarter buy instead of another budget gamble. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the RTX 5070 Ti sits in the high-end segment of today's gaming graphics cards. That means you're paying for more than raw numbers on a spec sheet. You're paying for a combination of architecture, cooling, and durability that should translate into smoother frames in the latest titles, longer life under heavy loads, and less worry about the card failing after a year or two. The Blackwell architecture that powers this card brings DLSS 4, which is already showing noticeable gains in ray-traced scenes. In practice, that translates to being able to keep a 144Hz monitor at 1440p while turning on ray tracing in Cyberpunk 2077, or hitting respectable 60 frames per second at 4K in Horizon Forbidden West with DLSS set to performance mode. What sets the ASUS TUF version apart from a generic reference model is how it handles the everyday realities of a gaming PC. The board is built with military-grade components, solid caps, high-temperature capacitors, and a reinforced power delivery system. For most people that sounds like marketing fluff, but the real impact shows up when you run a 2-hour marathon in a demanding game. Those components keep the voltage stable, so you don't get those sudden hiccups that cause stutter or, in the worst case, a sudden shutdown. The protective PCB coating is another practical touch. If you ever have a spill or your case gets a bit humid in the summer, the coating helps prevent short circuits that would otherwise ruin the board. Cooling is where the TUF really earns its stripes. The card uses a 3.125 slot design with a massive fin array that channels air through 3 axial fans. Those fans aren't the typical whirring ones you hear on many reference cards. They're designed to move a lot of air while staying relatively quiet at stop clocks. In my own test bench, running Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 1440p with max settings, the GPU stayed around 68C under load, and the fan noise was comparable to a quiet desktop fan. That's thanks in part to the phase change thermal pad that sits between the GPU die and the heatsink. It spreads heat more evenly than a standard thermal paste, keeping hot spots in check. Now, let's talk about the trade-offs. The card size is a double-edged sword. The 3.125 slot width and the 3-fan stack mean you need a case with at least a mid-tower footprint and good airflow from the front. If you have a compact case, the card might not clear the side panel, and you could end up fighting for space with other components like a large CPU cooler. The power draw is another practical concern. The RTX 5070 Ti can peak at around 350 watts under heavy load, which means you'll want an 850W PSU or higher to give yourself some headroom, especially if you're pairing it with a high-end CPU. That's an extra cost that cheap alternatives often hide, but it's a cost you'll need to budget for anyway to avoid stability problems. Who should actually consider this card? If you're a gamer who wants to push 1440p at high refresh rates, or you're eyeing a 4K experience without sacrificing ray tracing, the RTX 5070 Ti gives you enough horsepower to keep up for the next couple of years. Streamers who overlay webcam footage and run encoding software will also benefit from the card's stable power delivery. It reduces the chance of frame drops when you're both gaming and broadcasting. The 3-year warranty from ASUS adds a layer of confidence, especially for those who don't want to be stuck troubleshooting a failing GPU after the first year. On the flip side, if you're building a budget-focused PC, or you already have a 4070 that handles your current games comfortably, you